Well, hello, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome back to HCA's Pop Council, the show where we talk about all the things and all the geekdoms in pop culture. I'm Wendy Lee Szany. I am one of your hosts, and joining me on this lovely Monday is Jami Philbrick. Hey, Jami.
Hey, Wendy. How are ya?
I am, honestly, I am exhausted.
Me too. Me too. Long weekend.
A long weekend indeed. We braved through D23. All 3 days I was there. Jami, you did way more than D23 from what I
Oh
could see.
my
What
God.
did
So,
you do?
okay.
Quick
So
recap.
everyone who watches the show knows I'm a huge Deadhead, but my second favorite band of all time is a band from Minnesota called the Hold Steady. And they haven't played in
Ooh.
LA for 6 years. And they were doing a 3-night residency in Highland Park. And I bought tickets for those shows in 2019. Plus the sound check meet and greet with the band on Saturday. So essentially I had 4 shows in 3 days and I'd had tickets since 2019. And of course it's the same weekend as D23. So I had a hard time
Naturally.
making everything kind of work, but amazingly I did. I went to the show Thursday night and then went to Anaheim on Friday, was backstage for the big presentation on Friday, did interviews for that, and then stayed there. The one thing I did have to do was skip the show Friday night. I thought I was going to drive back from Anna, and we didn't get off the red carpet till like 7. I thought I was going to drive straight to
Oh,
Highland Park.
so that's really late.
Yeah. I was exhausted, and there was just no way that was going to be humanly possible. And I have to remind myself I'm not 25 anymore. So my body doesn't quite do what it used to be able to do. So I did skip Friday night. And of course, they played my favorite song Friday night that they didn't from the new album that they didn't play any of the other shows.
Oh my gosh, of course.
That's okay because they put it on Instagram. So I saw it live on Instagram in
There you go.
Anaheim while it was happening. And then, press line, 8 a.m. Saturday morning for all the that went till about 2:30, almost 3 o'clock. I ran through the convention hall, ran to my car. I literally had to be in Highland Park by 3:45 to check in for the sound check. I got there at 3:43 with 2 minutes to spare. I didn't even think my car was going to make it. I think I outdrove my car. My car was like, please stop. And so it was great. Sound check was great. And then I came back, was able to finish some D23 stuff, fix a few things with the articles that we had already posted. Just wanted to, add some links and new trailers and photos that had appeared in the time I was at the sound check because the band didn't come on until 10. So I was able to come home, finish the D23 stuff, shower, get to the show, and danced my butt off Saturday night, celebrating that this crazy weekend was finally over.
Wow, that's, first of all, it's incredible how close you cut everything.
Yes.
Like,
it's impressive I didn't have a heart attack. I mean, I am in my mid-40s, so it was a lot to try to do. But not drinking also helps. So I'm glad I gave that up a long time ago.
Good for you.
No hangovers, just D23 hangover.
Good for you. I love that your weekend is so full and you have this week to hopefully catch up on your rest a little bit.
I purposely did nothing over Labor Day, knowing that I had everything. And even on Labor Day weekend, I was like, I'm kind of bored. I should have done something. Like, no. I got so much to do next week.
That's what I did. I just slept a lot last week to make up for everything that's happening this past weekend, plus this week coming up. And hey, you and I aren't the only 2 people who ran around like crazy during the weekend that is D23, which, by the way, is what we're talking about on today's show, namely the couple of major showcases having to do with Disney Animation, Pixar Animation, and Walt Disney Studios live action, as well as Marvel, Lucasfilm, and 20th Century Studio. And obviously, we have to bring on a third member. You've seen him before on the show, and coming to you today live on location is Mark Pacis. Hello, Mark.
Hey, guys. Literally on location. I am currently at the Grand California Hotel, which is on the Disneyland Resort. So I'm in theme right now.
So on brand.
My weekend is still ongoing right now.
I love that. I love that. That's great. So let's go ahead and get this show started because we have a lot to talk about. We are going to kind of go through some of the major Disney live action announcements first, because that was the Friday panel. So I'm going to go to Jami first. But what were your thoughts on seeing some of the footage for upcoming projects like Peter Pan and Wendy, The Haunted Mansion, Mufasa, The Lion King? I didn't know we were getting that. Snow White and the Little Mermaid.
Yeah, the Little Mermaid stuff was great. It was great to see that. It was actually cool. So I was backstage on the press line, which was actually simultaneously sort of happening while the presentations were happening, or at least that was the plan. They didn't quite always go that way.
Right.
That was the plan, and so they actually had monitors backstage, so we could. But the sound was off because of the interviews, so we could hear the sound from the arena, but just see that. So you know, my sound maybe wasn't best when I was seeing some of these clips, but I was able to see the footage. Little Mermaid looks great. I'm excited to see more of what they're doing with Snow White. Got to talk to Gal and Rachel, and I love both of them. So I'm really, you know, looking forward to that. Hoping for the best with that. What else? Peter Pan. I didn't even know that was happening. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I like Jude Law as Captain Hook. I'm interested in seeing that. And Haunted Mansion is directed by Justin Simeon, who is actually an old friend, used to be a publicist.
Oh my gosh.
Before he started directing. Yeah. And so I'm really, and obviously he did Dear White People. So I'm really interested in seeing what comes out with that. I mean, I guess my only overall thing I would say about all of this sort of Disney live action stuff in general is, you know, and it's not anything we haven't said before, this sort of trend of just, you know, making live action versions of the animated classics. We didn't talk about it on the show, but Pinocchio was a disaster. That didn't go so well for them. And I'm kind of, you know, for every, you know, Beauty and the Beast or Lion King, there's a Pinocchio, right? And so I don't know, you know, it's sort of hard to gauge all of these. Or like Cinderella, I thought the live action Cinderella I thought was really great.
Love that one.
About it anymore. Yeah. It's like a forgotten movie.
And it's to me that was the best one so far.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
So
that was
my
the best one.
thinking is like, where are these going to fall? Are they going to be you know, great disasters, or just kind of forgotten in the wayside? And you know, I remember a time where Disney live action would make like original movies, like based on original screenplays or books that hadn't been adapted yet. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's just sort of the time we're in, I guess, that I feel a little oversaturated with all of these animated live action remakes. But it was also interesting to find out that Lion King was going to be a prequel.
Yeah.
Because I thought that it was going to be a sequel. And so to Jon Favreau's. So very interesting there. That makes it a little, and of course Barry Jenkins involved makes it a little more interesting than what had been previously announced.
Well said. What about you, Mark? Out of the announced live action, what are your thoughts on them?
Same thing what Jami said. It's I'm honestly really excited to see what Justin Simeon does with Haunted Mansion, because that cast is amazing. The footage that they showed was amazing as well. I'm hoping that, you know, the live action adaptation of Peter Pan and Wendy is also good, because that's one of my favorite. That's actually my second favorite Disney animated movie behind Pinocchio, and we know how that went. Everything that I saw for Peter Pan and Wendy looks great. You know, David Lowery is a visually amazing director, and his Pete's Dragon was also really, you know, really good as well. Can't wait for Snow White, primarily due to the guys that did the music for Greatest Showman. They're the ones doing the music for Snow White. So I honestly can't wait to see what kind of music original music that they come up with for Snow White, because, you know, having Rachel Ziegler, you know, sing their songs is just going to be amazing. I'm curious to see like how they're going to do the Seven Dwarves. Who they're going to cast for that, because you can't have Snow White. I mean, I guess you can have Snow White without the Seven Dwarves, but you can't have a Disney Snow White without the Seven Dwarves. Other than that, those are the ones that I'm just like been eagerly anticipating. Oh, and The Lion King. The Lion King, that was also a surprise that it was also a sequel / prequel to the Jon Favreau thing. I thought it was going to be its own, original thing, but having Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner back as Timon and Pumbaa and John Connie as Rafiki, that one's going to be interesting, because I'm curious to see on how, if they're going to switch up the kind of animation for it, because I guess, I love the Lion King live action remake, but my biggest gripe with that one is the lack of facial expression on the animation. So, it's it'll be interesting to see like what they do with that one.
Yeah, well said. I think out of the 4 titles that we talked about, the biggest surprise to me at the announcement was Mufasa the Lion King, because I don't think anybody realized that they were doing it, and it's a prequel. I am interested because I really like Barry Jenkins as a director, and I'm very interested in how he's going to tell this story. But I don't know if I need like a Mufasa origin story at all.
Is
So it was
Chiwetel coming back? Did they announce
great
that?
question. They didn't say anything about that. Let me take a look.
I think they said that he is.
I mean, if they're bringing back the others from Jon Favreau,
but wouldn't it be a young Mufasa?
Oh, that's
so it wouldn't
actually
matter.
a good point.
Yeah, that's true.
Point.
Unless they do a flashback scene or why would they do that?
Right. Well,
yeah.
No, you're right, because they always did use a younger voice and an older voice. Yeah, they could totally. Yeah. Although, didn't Donald Glover do both in the last one?
No.
Yes. No?
Oh,
did he not do young Simba and?
No, I think they got somebody else for young Simba.
They had to do young Simba?
They probably did. They probably did.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because in the trailer that we saw, and I don't think that was released online anywhere, it looked like it was a young cub that, got washed away in a flash flood and ended up over in Pride Rock. So Mufasa isn't technically a blood, like the lineage of any of the lions at Pride Rock. So how did he become the king of Pride Rock? So I'm curious about how that happens and how Scar is going to tie into all of this, and that would maybe explain why there's such animosity from Scar with Mufasa. But at the same time, I don't always need an origin story to some of our favorite characters, just he's king and that's it. But again, it's Barry Jenkins, so I will look forward to it. One of the other titles is The Haunted Mansion. I've been so curious about what it's going to look like, and I really didn't like the Eddie Murphy one very much at all. I don't think so. I don't think many people. I mean, if you enjoyed it, like that's great for you. I wasn't able to like finish it, so I was like holding my breath. I'm like, please make it look good. And so far from the footage that I saw, I thought it looked really good. I thought the details of the mansion looked great. I like the story of like, they have the new tenant at the mansion. They kind of take a look at the blueprint and they're discovering all these other nooks and crannies and hidden rooms and kind of who else is residing in there with them, and seeing the live action iteration of some of the fan favorite characters from inside the mansion, like the bride, the Hatbox Ghost, and the hitchhiking ghost, and the dueling ghosts. That was really cool, and I love that Jamie Lee Curtis is playing Madame Leota. So it looked good so far. It looks good so far in the footage that we saw. And then finally, The Little Mermaid. I was like, please, this is like my favorite all-time Disney animated classic. I was like, please don't screw this up. She sang beautifully. We got to see everybody at the panel. We got to see the entire sequence of Part of Your World, and it was performed beautifully. I was actually crying, and I didn't realize until it was the end of that presentation that I had been crying. And I'm like, what is this? Pull yourself together. I think one of the only nitpicky thing I have to say about everything looked beautiful. The underwater stuff looked great. She looked great. Was the hair movement underwater. I get what they were trying to do, but I felt like at times it moved a little bit too much, where it was, just I felt like maybe they can dial that down just a little bit, but we're months away from that one being, released. So I think they're still fine tuning, and the fact that they even brought anything to D23 is to treat the fans. I think it's a really nice thing to do. So that's all I have to say about all the live action announcements. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and move on to Pixar Animation, and they announced the upcoming theatrical releases as well as Disney Plus releases like Elemental, Win or Lose, that's going to be on Disney Plus, and Inside Out 2. Jami, what did you think of the footage for Elemental?
Yeah, so Elemental looks really cool, and I loved the way they introduced the cast on stage with fire and with water, and I thought that was really great. So yeah, I mean, and I know they also announced Inside Out 2.
Mm-hmm.
This has that sort of Inside Out feel to me, right? Like it feels sort of in that kind of world. So I liked it. I'm excited by that. And I guess Wish. I was going to talk about Wish, but that was Disney.
That is Disney,
not Pixar, right? So we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I thought that was. I liked what I saw about Elemental. I liked the announcements for In and Out 2.
Mm-hmm. Me too. It really does resonate, that Inside Out sort of animation that we've seen, which kind of, I think it's very singular and it's in line with the world that Pixar has been building. But I like the story, as if you're living a kind of like a Zootopia type, but for elements.
Right.
Yeah, a bunch of elements living together.
Yeah,
and
the
maybe
director
they
told
don't get
me.
along.
Yeah, the director told me it's about what if I can't remember which one falls in love with the other, but if water fell in love with fire or fire fell in love with water, what would happen?
And how it potentially couldn't work, but they're going to make it work because love conquers all.
Exactly. So I like that theme. I like those ideas.
Yes, and I'm excited for Inside Out as well, because Riley has grown, so she's a teenager now, which means they're going to introduce new emotions to us. So that'll be really fun to see. Now, Mark, I know you were saying that you are pretty excited for the upcoming Disney Plus series Win or Lose. So talk a little bit about that.
So Win or Lose, what they were talking about is that it takes place over a week, and leading up to the Little League championship game, and each episode will focus on a different character and their point of view leading up to the championship game at the end. And so the different animation styles for each character is going to be amazing. We saw, the clip that we saw dealt with an empire and how he puts up his own emotional armor every time he gets yelled at, because if you're a sports fan and you're a baseball fan, you always yell at the umpire because they're still human, but they make mistakes where you're like, oh man, that's such a bad call, like why do you do that, you're a bleep 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 bleep. And so you got to be deaf, and take that in stride if you're an umpire. So having him put up a literal armor that bounces off all kinds of things is pretty funny. And the clip that we saw dealt with him putting up emotional armor as he was trying to ask this barista out on a date, but she considers him as a just a friend, and so he puts up even more armor because of it, which I get. Well, I mean, we've all been there before, so it makes a lot of sense that he put up a lot of that emotional armor. But to see each different character come up with their own episode and their own adventure is pretty fun, and everything we've seen is really, really funny. So that one is, as a sports guy too, I cannot wait for that series to come out next year.
Yeah, that'll be a really fun one to watch for sure. Pixar projects are usually, really, really well done. They really touch on that human story, and they make it really relatable. So when you watch, you're kind of like, I have been in that, like that barista scene that you're talking about. Like, how many of us have gotten ourselves into that uncomfortable, really awkward situation? But it's like, if I don't say it now, I'm never gonna get the opportunity. And then you just put on that emotional armor and just receive whatever may come back, because we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, either comes up even more or it all just comes off.
I feel like I'm gonna imagine that now when I'm in a situation like that. I'm just gonna be like put up an armor.
And that's the power of Pixar. I mean, like we were talking about with Inside Out, like how many of us thought of like an emotion of ours like in physical form? Like we didn't even think about something like that until Inside Out came out, and now that's all we can see.
Yeah.
So that's just the genius of Pixar, and in general.
Yeah. Definitely can't wait to see more from Pixar. And with that, let's talk about Disney Studios animation. So they got a few projects coming up. They have a Zootopia Plus that is coming to Disney Plus. Those are going to be short stories that focuses on each character who lives in Zootopia. Some of them we have already met in the movie. And this next one is actually really interesting, and I'm happy that they announced this. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this name. I believe it's pronounced Iwaju, and this is all new, original, and they are working in collaboration. That's what I found this so cool with Pan African comic book entertainment company Kigali, and they came on stage, and essentially this is their love letter to Africa. And in this, it basically tells the land that's been divided in two. One part is rich, one part is poor, and how the people interact with each other, and there's like a little bit of relationship or friendship that forms there. It's like a coming of age story of a young Harris and her friend who is an inventor. It gave me like this world that they built, because it's so tech savvy. It kind of gave me like a Wakanda sort of a vibe. And I really liked that a lot. So I actually can't wait to see this. This is also going to be on Disney Plus as well. Jami, your thoughts on Iwaju?
Yeah, I didn't get to see a lot of it from backstage. Did get to see the guys when they came backstage, but that was about it. So I don't have a lot I can say about this because I didn't really get to see the presentation. But sounds interesting and something that I would definitely want to check out.
Absolutely. And Mark, what about you when you heard about Iwaju?
Same thing too. It's having Jennifer Lee like said like this is their first like collaboration with a different it's the first Walt Disney animation collaboration that they've done with a different studio, and so I thought that was interesting to hear, especially she was like saying like she saw in trade paper like Kugali was like we want to kick Disney's what, and instead of like trying to fight them, she was like, oh, that's interesting, let me go and talk with these guys and see what kind of ideas they have, if they want to collaborate. So I just thought it was interesting, like instead of like trying to be like the evil empire or whatever and just like take over and try to stomp out the competition, they're like, let's collaborate, let's see if we can like share your ideas with ours and then make some magic happen. And everything that I've seen is awesome, and the whole like sci-fi aspect is just amazing. And I think that I'm trying to remember correctly whether or not the whole like division thing was actually something that they had in their hometown of Nigeria.
Ooh,
Because
yes.
I'm trying to remember, because that would stuff like that, like all personal stories always comes out even better because you're putting your heart and soul into the project, because it's all you've known all your life and you're just putting everything into that storyline. So stuff like that I always look forward to, because personal projects are always I feel like they're the most um, they're like the I don't want to say like the best, but they're the type of storytelling is better than most if you're not
Yes.
like putting everything you have into it.
Absolutely agree. So I can't wait to see this on Disney Plus. The animation looks really cool. There's one little creature in there I know is already going to sell a lot of merch. So can't wait to buy more stuff. And with that, let's go ahead and move on to the final two projects. Both of these projects are feature films. One of them is coming out this year, and that is Strange World. This is by director Don Hall. And the cast is pretty awesome. Jake Gyllenhaal, Dennis Quaid, Lucy Liu, Jabuki Young White, and Gabrielle Union. And what's interesting about this is that it kind of gave me Journey to the Center of the Earth vibe, but through generations. So we have a grandpa, we have dad, and we have grandson, and the family dynamic is what, and obviously the world building is what's going to get me really interested in this film, because the back and forth, I think, between the three generations is something we're going to look for. Like, everybody has a different idea. The dad kind of is the bridge between the two, kind of is a lot of back and forth of like, no, son, don't listen to your grandfather. No, don't influence him like that. It's just so funny. Jami, your thoughts on A Strange World?
Yeah, this looks great. It kind of reminds me. It had sort of an Up feel for me. And then, like you said, like Journey to the Center of the World and stuff like that. Kind of maybe a late 50s, 60s film sort of vibe, that kind of sci-fi. Yeah, we got to talk to Dennis Quaid backstage. He was saying that his character wasn't really a stay-home dad and is sort of trying to make up for that now. So I thought that was interesting. And, I'm always a sucker for father-son stories. So this has two of them in it, right? And as well as grandfather-grandson relationships. So, yeah, it's coming out in November, I think. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I think this is going to be a good one. So I'm excited, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, what did you think when you saw the world in Strange World and the characters?
Same thing what Jami said. Like, I'm also a sucker for father son stories, and like you said, like this has two of them in it. So we have differing relationships between the fathers, and they're kind of like parenting styles. Like, one tries to protect the son at all costs, while the other one is like, no, just go out like full force and try to like do everything and live life to the fullest, kind of thing. So I already know that it's gonna lead up to a lot of heartwarming moments, and I may or may not cry during the movie. So and I love the pulpy, like 50s sci-fi style. Like, I've always been a sucker for that. So everything that I've seen with Strange World is honestly right up my alley, and I can't wait for November to come out, because it's gonna be fun. It's really gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild and wacky and crazy from just a little bit that we saw. I think they're just gonna bump into mythical creature after mythical creature, not mythical, but strange creatures and strange settings, one after kind of like in the Croods, in the second one, where they keep running into really random things, and they just keep running, and as they're running from one, they run into another, so the problem just multiplies. It's going to be chaotic, and I'm going to love it. And finally, this animated feature film, will be out I think fall of 2023, and it's called Wish. What's really interesting about this one is the animation style. They're blending a little bit of that, traditional, more watercolor animation style, and mix that with the 3D animation that we've been seeing in projects of late. So when they showed us the footage on screen, I almost want to say it looks slightly like claymation live action in a way, but it's not. It's, animation. So it's really interesting. I like that they're changing up the style of animation. I don't know if that's going to be like the way to move forward. I think it's kind of specific to this, but the story is going to take place in the Kingdom of Rosas, and it's going to center around a 17-year-old girl named Asha, who cares so much about her kingdom. Not saying she's a princess or anything like that, because I think she's just a resident, but she cares deeply about her community, and she discovers that there is some darkness that's going to be dangerous to her kingdom. She, in a desperate moment, makes a wish, and that wish and the energy she had with it manifests itself into a star, which is also going to sell a lot of merchandise, because I looked at the screen and I said, I want that. So Disney, take my money. And it's going to be a fun adventure story about how a girl and her wish saves the kingdom. Jami, what did you think of the animation style? We have Ariana DeBose, who is going to be playing Asha. What did you think?
Well, before I get to all that, interesting. So I was talking to Alan Tudyk backstage, who is in the film as well, and is in pretty much every Disney animated film. We talked about that as well. But he described this movie a little differently than the log line you just gave.
Okay.
He described it as the origin story of the star from When You Wish Upon a Star.
Yes.
Like from the song, like literally from the Disney logo, right?
Yes.
So while that's interesting, I have to say it goes back to my point before about seems like Disney's running out of ideas that aren't Marvel, Lucas, or Avatar, because we're now making a movie about the origin of our logo. I mean, when you put it like that, it seems a little desperate. But that being said, this could still be a great movie that comes out of it, right? Regardless of how, why the movie got made. The fact is it could still be great, and it's got an interesting story. So I'm really intrigued by this. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm interested in seeing what happens when it comes out, and if there's more to it than just sort of a corporate rebranding.
Mark, your thoughts on what you saw from Wish?
Okay, to Jamie's point, yes, but I get why they're doing it because it's in celebration of Disney's 100 years that they're celebrating next year. And so I thought it was kind of like an ingenious idea to, kind of make a movie about the wishing star that every single, Disney character has wished upon throughout its 100-year existence. So I thought it's kind of a way to celebrate, all the other movies and, creating something that's kind of sort of original. And also they said like it's probably going to be, it's probably going to have like the most Easter eggs that you've seen in any like Disney movie. So, it's all that is planned out. Like, like it's gonna have probably like a Pinocchio thing, gonna have like a Up thing. I don't know any other like Disney animation. So I thought that was pretty ingenious. Having Ariana DeBose like sing like the main like song was amazing. No, it's kind of funny. Well, it's not kind of funny because they're both amazing on how both Rachel Ziegler and Ariana DeBose are going to be like Disney princesses. Because I know you said that Asha's not going to be a Disney princess, but we all know she's probably going to end up as a princess.
She'll be inducted.
There's no way that you can't have her not be a Disney princess at the end. But yeah, I mean, having Alan Tudyk play a talking
goat.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna play it off like he's like hey hey and tuk tuk and have him just do like animal sounds, but he plays it off like with a deep voice and like, oh my god, this is what I sound like. Why do I have like such a deep voice? Like, and then while he gives like the eyes to like the crowd, like yeah, I have a deep voice, like kind of like stuff like that, and and having him back just solidifies that he's like the Jeffrey John Ratzenberger of Disney Animation. They bring him back because they think he's like a good luck charm for their movies. So having him back is awesome, and it's just gonna be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. If anything, it'll definitely be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And Ariana DeBose's performance, like you said, at the end she sung beautifully, and just like Cynthia Erivo did too. I forgot to mention that she did open the show with her rendition of "When You Wish Upon a Star," and it was just she looked gorgeous. She sounded gorgeous, and I think it's interesting that because Jamie, you just talked about the "When You Wish Upon a Star," the star is that star we're going to meet and wish. So I think it's funny that the two performances bookended surrounding that theme. Like I think it was totally done on purpose.
Absolutely. But Pinocchio failing the way it did, that was not part of their plan.
I was disappointed. I wanted to like it.
Would have been a big hit opening on right? Like you can see how it wasn't a coincidence that came out the first day of D23 and Disney Plus Day. You know what I mean? And I think that their plan, as great a plan it was, I mean, you just can't predict if a movie is going to ultimately work or not work. And I think the plan would have gone better had Pinocchio, the film, the Robert Zemeckis film, been better accepted by fans and critics when it opened on Thursday.
Yeah, agreed. And look, the animation and live action panel isn't the only thing we got to see at D23. There's also a huge one on Saturday that everybody was looking forward to, and that is the Lucasfilm, Marvel, and 20th Century Studio panel. So let's go ahead and go in order because Lucasfilm was actually the first kind of studio that they talked about. So Kathleen Kennedy was on stage to talk about coming up Andor, which is literally like hitting Disney Plus in a week. Let's see. They also talked about Star Wars for animation, Bad Batch Season 2, Tales of the Jedi. They mentioned Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, and Season 3 of The Mandalorian, and of course, Indiana Jones. Jami, which out of all the Lucasfilm projects, which is the one that you're most excited to talk about? I think I know, but go ahead.
I mean, come on. And this is I'm going to take this back to my larger problem with Lucasfilm. And this was the same thing coming out of Star Wars Celebration. There are no Star Wars movies in the pipeline. There's nothing that we know of that's been announced, that's in production. There are things that have been working on. We know there's a Kevin Feige one. There was a Patty Jenkins that may or may not still be happening. I think Taika, there was a Taika one being talked about, but nothing's been announced. There's nothing happening with Star Wars film. And I think that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem when the biggest thing Lucas brings is Indiana Jones. Like that's the biggest thing they got. It was the same as Star Wars Celebration, film-wise. And so I think that's a huge, huge problem for Lucasfilm and Star Wars moving forward, that they don't have a presence in film. They're basically a TV production company now. And they do some great TV shows, don't get me wrong, but they're not making movies. So, and if you have to tread out the Willow TV show to your presentation, they did the same thing at Star Wars Celebration. I mean, that just shows you don't have enough Star Wars in production. So it was great to hear that Christian Slater's joining Willow. I don't know that changes my lack of excitement for Willow much, but it's a little interesting. And then as far as Andor, I mean, I've already seen the first few episodes, so I'm just looking forward to that being released and being able to see it. It's almost here. So that's more of like promotion than anything else. And the same with Mandalorian. I feel like we got a lot of that at Star Wars Celebration. So really getting to see some actual footage from Indiana Jones, and then of course having Harrison there again. That by far was the highlight to me of what otherwise would have been a fairly disappointing Lucas presentation.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, as much as I enjoyed seeing all the upcoming things that I already know that I am going to be watching, like Mandalorian Season 3, The Bad Batch Season 2, I'm excited for those. I am really happy that we got to see, because I think they did show it at Star Wars Celebration, but I wasn't in that panel where they showed Tales of the Jedi. So I like that, where it's short. 6 short stories. 3 of them is going to be based on younger Ahsoka, and 3 of them is going to be based on a younger Dooku. So I am very interested in that storyline, in those storylines, and I've always liked the Star Wars animation. So those projects have a special place in my heart. But I feel like during the presentation, they kind of went through it quickly, where they didn't show. And I'm not saying they have to always give us footage, but I would have also, for people who didn't get to go to like Star Wars Celebration, if they could have showed us, even if it was a repeat footage, like that would have been cool. They kind of glazed over Ahsoka because it's in production, and that was, for me as a fan, I was disappointed because I love that character so much, so I wanted to see just a little bit more. But they did show us another photo of her, but we've already seen what she looks like because of The Mandalorian, so we didn't have to imagine too hard, because that's tangible, that's been out. And then, like you said, Andor is coming out in just a little bit, and I can't wait. It's going to be a 3-episode premiere, so I guess strap in, get ready, because it's going to be a long night on Wednesday, or long Wednesday morning, with 3 episodes to watch in the best way possible.
Well, and it's a long series. It's a longer series, I believe, than a lot of the other Disney Plus
12
series.
and 12.
So it makes sense that they would drop more than the initial 1 or 2 to begin.
Absolutely. And I love the indie stuff. Like I was so happy to see it on screen, and Harrison getting really emotional on stage got me a little emotional. Mark, your thoughts on overall the Lucasfilm presentation?
Okay, as someone who was not at Star Wars Celebration this year, I loved everything that I saw. Even Andor, even though we've seen a lot of Andor since, like you said, it's coming up like next week already. Love, seeing all the Tales of the Jedi stuff. I didn't see the Mandalorian trailer, so seeing that, in person was just mind-blowingly awesome. But that being said, I am like one of the biggest Indiana Jones fans. Like as when I tell people that that's my favorite trilogy of all time, they're like, "What? More than Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, blah blah." I'm like, "Yes," because I just love like the whole like 50s, 40s, like pulpy adventure. Look, I've always loved adventure movies as a kid, and Indiana Jones was like, my favorite series growing up. And so having them go back to the roots of, the practical effects and practical stunts of the originals, like what made the originals so great, was amazing. And I don't know if you guys have seen the Lucasfilm booth at D23 this year, but there was something there that I just thought it was like so interesting because they had like concept art of someone that looked like Todd, like the guy from Raiders of the Lost Ark with the glasses where his face melted off. And I asked like so many people, it's like, I took a picture of it and sent it to people, and I'm like, is this who I think it is? And everyone's like, dude, why does that look like the guy from Raiders? I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one that's tripping right now. It's like, it does look like him, but how is he back if his face, melted off in the movie? So, seeing how that plays out, even if it, if he does come back, how he comes back. If not, then, why does the guy like look like him? Is it like, his grandson or whatever, trying to get revenge for, Indy killing his grandfather or whatnot? And having Sala back, that was a big deal to me, because Sala is one of my favorite characters in the entire series. And when he wasn't in the fourth, I mean, there was a lot of things wrong with, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I don't even consider that part of the Indy franchise. So having him come back in this new one is, just like it's a big deal, because I love that character so much.
Yes, I agree. Everything you just said. Really excited for this next installment of Indiana Jones, and I feel like Harrison just as much confirmed, like, I am done. This is the last one for me. And I think he said, he was like, I'm not falling down anymore for anyone.
Yeah, because he injured himself.
Yeah.
During production, he was like out for like a few months. So I get from his standpoint, but that part when he choked up, when he said like this is his last movie, that, like you, Wendy, like that just like hit me right there, because it just shows like how much, like, I know he jokes a lot, like when he was on stage at Comic-Con for Force Awakens, like he was like being like, he had his hands behind his back, like he was like being escorted in, like being forced to like attend this. But when he showed up to D23, he was like visibly like choked up, because he knew like this was like, like last Indiana Jones, and it shows you like how much the character means to him. And to see that on screen, on stage, it's it's heartbreaking, bittersweet in a way, and yeah,
absolutely, definitely something, a movie that I'm looking forward to on when it releases finally. Okay, let's talk about the next segment in this presentation, and that is Marvel Studios. I think everybody was just really hyped for this one. There was a lot of wild speculations on what we were gonna get.
Oh my God.
Yep. And like I was witnessing all the Twitter,
none of those wild speculations,
all those tweets. I mean, even if they were true, they weren't even talked about.
Well, Wendy, let me tell you about one thing. So the rumor, I don't know if this is the rumor you're talking about, but there was a rumor last week. There was a list of actors, and that these actors were going to be appearing at D23 and being announced as, and it was Henry Cavill as Hyperion, John Boyega. They didn't say who he would be. Jodie Comer, maybe Invisible Girl, Giancarlo Esposito as Professor X, Denzel Washington as Magneto. So obviously none of that happened. None of that happened at all. But we're backstage and Giancarlo is doing interviews for Mandalorian. And all of a sudden they pulled him and took him away. And he had just gotten there. So I was thinking, oh, they're about to bring him back on stage to make the announcement. And of course that didn't happen. They just pulled him to give him lunch or something, probably.
Got to feed your actors.
So all of that, none of that. So I didn't mean to jump in, Wendy.
No, please, it's fine. That's why I like.
Right. So none of that happened. I did feel that, I feel this was just Comic-Con 2.0, right? This is just the second half of the Comic-Con presentation, which is fine. Had there not been a D23 this year, we probably would have had the Thunderbolts cast announced at Comic-Con. We probably would have seen the Marvels together there. We probably would have seen Jonathan Majors join the cast of Ant-Man up there. So a lot of the stuff that was sort of staved for this, I feel, was just sort of like, Captain America, the full Captain America New Order cast being announced was probably just holdover from that. So there was no Henry Cavill joining the MCU. There's none of that. But I also thought that was Twitter getting ahead of itself, too excited. Yeah. So I actually thought Marvel killed it as they always do. Better presentation, certainly in Lucasfilm. We'll talk about it in a second, but 20th Century only had one movie to bring. And better than any of the other, the Disney stuff that we've been talking about. I thought, Feige always does an amazing job with that. And so let me just real quick before we move, Thunderbolts cast, because we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. And I think we were about half right. Okay. Yeah. So we called, obviously Val, Ghost. We said Taskmaster and
U.S. Agent
and Florence Pugh. So the two that I was surprised about, obviously Bucky and Red Guardian. Red Guardian makes sense now that I kind of think about it. I'm a little upset with myself that I hadn't named him before. Really shocked that Abomination is not part of this.
I think many people are shocked about that.
I guess from where we are right now in She-Hulk, you could say that he's gone straight and so it maybe makes sense for him not to be on the villains team. But at the same time, Val is part of the government. He is a soldier. It just made so much sense to bring Emil Blonsky back. But I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens at the end of She-Hulk to know
that's true. Oh, that's true.
With his character. And Justin Hammer and Agatha Harkness were probably wishful thinking on my part anyways. However, I can't wait for Thunderbolts, and I'm so excited about it. I love the cast. The two issues that I have with it. One, there are three characters being brought back from Black Widow. Was Black Widow that important of a movie? I do not remember it being that important. It was a prequel to, it featured a dead character when it was released. So I just didn't see that being as important to the overall MCU as apparently it is. And then the Bucky inclusion seems off too, because he's not the Winter Soldier anymore. He's the White Wolf. Right. He's not the villain. And then also, I just have to also point out the idea of diversity on this team and a lack of it. And not just in, male versus female or race, but I'm actually looking at superpower diversity, right? Because basically U.S. Agent, Bucky, and Red Guardian are all Captain Americas. They're all the same guy, essentially. When you look at it, and you could make an argument Taskmaster, because he's got part of that Captain America. I mean, he's really every
Avenger,
right? So in a sense, you've got a Black Widow, 3 to 4 Captain Americas. It just doesn't seem like that's why I wanted an Abomination, right? Then you have a monster.
To make it a little bit different.
You have Agatha who would bring magic. Justin Hammer could be like the new Iron Man, you know, the evil Iron Man. So I just don't see a lot of diversity in the superpowers on this team. So, and then I guess I'll just close by saying thank you, Marvel, for bringing Tim Blake Nelson back as the leader. I'm confused why he's appearing in a Captain America movie and not in a Hulk, She-Hulk type
I
of...
I bet you they announced this so they can show him in future episodes coming up in She-Hulk.
Ooh, that's good, Wendy. Like, oh, they announced it so that he'll be in the final episodes of She-Hulk, and then we see how he gets in Captain America. All right, I'm on.
Maybe this is the one time one of my predictions could be right.
No, I think that makes actually a lot of sense. That makes a lot of, because I was trying to think, well, why would the leader be Captain America's villain? Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But maybe he's being set up as a larger. I mean, having Kang as Ant-Man's villain is more of a setup for down the line. So, I thought the Marvel stuff was great, and Secret Invasion, getting to see some stuff from that, and that Don Cheadle is joining that show as well. It'll be great to see him with Sam. So, very excited for the TV stuff. I'm sure there's something I missed, but the TV stuff and the and the movies, and getting to see all the Captain Marvels together was great.
Yes, absolutely. Mark, your thoughts overall on the Marvel presentation? And also, I forgot to ask, were you in Hall H for Comic-Con?
I was. Yeah.
So how does that feel for you? Because kind of on the opposite end, when you were talking about you weren't there for Celebration, so everything that they showed during Lucasfilm was fresh to your eyes. But for me, it was kind of the opposite for Marvel, because I wasn't there in Hall H for Marvel. So a lot of that stuff, the footage, was fresh to my eyes.
So the Secret Invasion stuff, I thought that was similar, but it turns out that the trailer that they publicly released was the trailer that they showed at Comic-Con. Because I thought, as I was watching it, I was like, this is basically the same thing at Comic-Con. But then when they released it after the D23 presentation, I was looking at it, in line while I was waiting for my food, and I was like, wait a minute, I totally forgot that, Nick Fury comes in to talk with, Maria Hill. That was from the Comic-Con trailer. I totally forgot that wasn't in the initial D23
not in the D23
trailer.
one.
Yeah, so that one is what we saw at Comic-Con this year. I'm kind of sad that you guys weren't able to see the Guardians trailer.
Yeah,
because that one made a lot of people cry.
I want to see it.
Yeah, the Black Panther one, and the Guardians trailer were the two things that made a lot of people cry inside of Hall H. What else? The Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is somewhat of a variation of each other. Like in the Hall H trailer, it shows, more of the, like Cassie, Hope, Hank Pym, Janet Van Dyne, like making fun of, Scott Lang for making a book and trying to, prove,
self-promote.
like self-promotion. Like there was a joke where, Janet Van Dyne was like, oh yeah, you saved the universe, you saved the world because of what you did. I think you should write a book about it, as, kind of subtle jab to Scott Lang, because he, that was the whole inside joke, was like he wrote a book about, all that. A lot of the stuff in between was the same. That whole Cassie building the device that brings them into the quantum universe, that one was new. That one was different. The whole conversation at the end between Kang and Scott Lang, that one is completely different from what we saw, because what they did for that one was, Scott Lang is just saying, oh, I'm an Avenger, and then Kang as a reply said, oh, you're an Avenger? Well, I'm a Conqueror, and then that's it. It cuts. So we got to see more of the conversation and more of Kang using his powers against Scott Lang in that instance, and why he's the villain of Ant-Man the Wasp in the first place, because that whole conversation, like, oh, I want you to steal a thing from me, that wasn't in Hall H at the time. That one was completely different. So even though it was like, maybe that's why Guardians wasn't there in the first place, because they didn't have anything different to show for like people like me who went to both who were there at both Hall H and Hall D23 at the time. Seeing and just going off new stuff, like seeing the Marvels, that one was a complete surprise, because you guys have watched, Candyman, and you know how dark and gritty that movie was.
I agree.
And and then watching the Marvels, I'm like, wait a minute, is this supposed to be funny? Like, I'm having a really good time, like, watching this trailer, like, seeing the dynamic between Monica, Carol, and Kamala, like, having them, and the reason why that post-credit stinger has Carol showing up instead of Kamala coming out of the closet. I thought they, it was kind of like that Freaky Friday kind of thing, where Kamala's, consciousness is in Carol Danvers, while Carol Danvers's consciousness is within Kamala's. And I'm like, oh, wow, so it's like a teleportation thing when they use their powers. And I thought, that could lead to so many like fun like conversations, and even like some cool like action sequences. Like they use their power.
Good.
Like Kamala shows up, like to hit them, and then use their powers again, and then in comes like Captain Marvel. There's so many like different, things you can do with that, teleportation thing. What else? Like the whole Echo thing, that one was awesome. Seeing Charlie Cox and D'Onofrio on stage, they said like they have nothing to show because they're starting filming next year. I would have.
But they did show us that footage from the upcoming She-Hulk episode with Daredevil.
Which I'm glad. Like they kind of made him funny, like in a sense, but in more like
in the way that Matt Murdock is funny.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's serious, but the whole situation around him is just funny, and him like reacting to all that. That's where the humor comes from. Like he's still like the Matt Murdock that we know of from the Netflix series, but in this kind of like wacky like She-Hulk world that he got thrust into.
Can I add something? I spoke to Charlie backstage, and he confirmed that the new series and any inclusion of his character in the MCU is a complete reboot. It has no connection to the Netflix series. He confirmed
that. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
He confirmed that with movie folks. So yes,
set the record straight.
It is a everything that, and I mean, think you can also make the same case for D'Onofrio's character as well, and maybe for any of the Netflix series, but specifically for his character, he said this series will not be connected to Netflix. It is a complete reboot, brand new thing.
Which is good. Oh, and speaking of Netflix, I know you guys saw the Secret Invasion trailer that they put out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Did you guys think that was Misty Knight holding the gun?
I have to go back and rewatch it.
You
think so, Jamie?
No, I'd have to look at it.
Oh,
yeah, we have to look at it again.
So I was waiting in line, like I said, as I was watching the Secret Invasion trailer, and then a guy, behind me was like, "Did you guys look at the Secret Invasion trailer? Was that Misty Knight?" I'm like, let me go and replay this. And then when I saw, there was a particular scene where there's this, African American woman with the same hair as Misty Knight, and she has like an envelope and pulls out like a gun out of it. And I paused it on that, and I was looking really carefully at it, and I'm like, man, that looks so much like Simone Missick. Like, she doesn't have like the hand like chopped off or anything, but she still has her hand, but it looks so much like her. So that's why I was like trying to get your guys', like I asked like other people as well, like, is that who you think it is? Is that Misty Knight in that?
We'll have to rewatch it.
Yeah, if they bring back Misty, then that just, confirms like
it's happening.
A lot of them back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
But I think they're bringing them back. Ritter. They're bringing back the actors to play new versions of the characters.
It's
not going to be the Netflix characters.
Oh, that would be why her hands are.
Good
point, Jamie.
Because if we look at it from a business point of view, like, you know what I mean? Like, Marvel's not going to hold anything against the actors. And if you look at, like, you know, Jessica Henwick, I mean, how big is she right now? You know, like, they're not going to not. You know, if they want to use that character, they'll bring her back to, you know, Bernthal. If they're going to be a Punisher, it's going to be him because they want to work with him. They'd want to use him. They'd want to use him even if he hadn't already been the Punisher. They'd want to cast him as something else, you know?
Yeah. And it's basically one of those things where they're the perfect versions of the characters already. Like the casting on that show, with the exception of, you know,
go ahead and say it.
With the exception of Finn Jones' Iron Fist, everything else has been so spot on. Like Kristen Ritter, Mike Coulter, you know, Charlie Cox, D'Onofrio, like John Bernthal, you know, Simone Missick, you know, all of them. Oh, and, you know, that was the thing that I was getting to. It's like, I was kind of disappointed that they didn't announce the rest of the cast of Born Again. Because, you know, there was a lot of rumors that Eldon was coming back. Deborah Ann Wall was coming back.
I hope so.
Love to. I would love to see. The guy that played Ben Urich. He was great in the first season. He was before, you know, what happens to him come back, because he was really good, Ben Urich. Like, have all of them just like come back for Born Again.
I hope so.
I mean, which, talking about it now, it is a very fitting title if you really think about it. So yeah, I mean, I can go on and on about the Marvel stuff. Everything that I saw was great.
Yes.
But like I said, I wish you guys would have seen the Guardians trailer. But now that I think about it, it makes sense why they didn't bring it to D23.
Exclusive Comic-Con.
Yeah, it's they're probably not going to show anything different than what they showed at Hall H. So yeah, it's everything is great. Marvel is going to be Armor Wars. I'm glad that's back. That's the final thing I'm going to say. I'm glad that they finally brought back Armor Wars to the table, because I've been looking forward to that. And Ironheart, as you know,
Ironheart looks good.
Fan, as an Iron Man fan, I'm like looking forward to anything Iron Man released. So Armor Wars, Ironheart, glad it's on the table.
Nice. Well, I cannot believe that neither one of you brought up the live performance of Rogers the Musical. How dare you?
Yeah, man.
So I knew that was happening, Wendy, 24 hours before it happened, because back when the presentation ended on Friday, the red carpet was still going on. And then
they did the rehearsal?
They started the rehearsal. We could see it on the screens in the backstage. So Disney people were running furiously, unplugging all the TVs so we wouldn't see the rehearsal.
Okay, wait. I have a story about that as well. So you know how on Saturday, you know what? I'm going to save it for afterwards. I'll save it for afterwards. Because I just realized we're running out of time. Very excited for Werewolf by Night, because it looks so different.
Great.
Let's go around the horn real quick, and Jamie, like 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's not based. I actually talked to Michael as well. It's not based on the more recent Werewolf by Night by Taboo and our friend Ben, who's been on the show. It is based on the original. Is it Jack Russell? But I forget the character's name. But the original Werewolf by Night comic from the 70s. So and he's using a lot of obviously inspiration from like classic horror films and stuff like that. And Man-Thing is going to be in it. So that's all very exciting.
That is news.
That's not a news or a spoiler, by the way. That's in the trailer. You can see Man-Thing.
I don't remember. I have to go and rewatch, because there were so many things processing through our brains at the same time.
Yeah, no, you can see Man-Thing in the trailer.
Okay, you're gonna have to. I'll screenshot Misty Knight in the trailer and send it to you guys, and then you, Jamie, screenshot Man-Thing and then send it to us. Then we can be like, Oh man, that is my fan thing. Oh man, that is Misty
Well,
Knight.
no, but it's less of a surprise than the Misty Knight thing you're talking about, because I mean they talked about it in the presentation. I think.
Oh, did they? Oh,
I must have
yeah.
tuned
I
out
must have
at one
missed that
point.
too.
Too much.
Yeah.
It was like too much good news.
Yeah.
All right, well, you guys, we have one more movie to discuss, and well, we won't take too long on this because I know we're like way over. But 20th Century Studio did give us a very lengthy presentation for Avatar: The Way of Water, so much so that they took the time to hand out 3D glasses, like the good Dolby ones, and they kind of divided up the auditorium that we were in, so only one screen was focused to give you the most optimal viewing opportunity as possible. And they showed us, I think it was like 6 or 7 scenes from Avatar: The Way of Water. For me, someone who is I thought the Avatar movie, the first one, was really good. I understand a lot of people like why they're fans of it. The technology, especially for that time, was groundbreaking, and the 3D tech has improved so much since. I really, from where I was sitting, because I know some people complained about the frame rate, I didn't have any problems watching it. I thought it looked absolutely gorgeous, especially all the water scenes. So it got me a little bit more invested, and now I want to kind of go back to the theaters because I think they're re-releasing the first Avatar movie. Like, I actually wouldn't mind going back to the theater and just revisiting that in the format that it's meant to be shown. So, Jami, let's go to you. Your thoughts on the scenes that we got to see in Avatar: The Way of Water.
So the scenes that I saw were backstage with no sound and were
blurry.
Oh no! I knew you guys were seeing it in 3D because it was blurry. And, I could tell because they didn't give us 3D glasses, so I could tell that it was being shown in 3D. So I think it was amazing that they were able to show the audience in the arena the footage in 3D. Obviously I can't comment on it because I didn't really see it. But I'm looking forward. I'm really looking forward to this movie. It's out at Christmas time before the end of the year, so we're getting close. It was great to talk to John Landau a little bit backstage, and we got to talk to Steven and Sam as well. And Sam talked about Sigourney Weaver playing his daughter. So they're doing a lot of interesting things in this. I'm looking forward to it. I loved the first one when it came out. And to your point, Wendy, like, I agree. Like, I think that movie works in its format. I don't think it works streaming at home you know what I mean? Like, it's not that good when you're not watching it on a big screen in 3D. And I'm expecting this to be the same and be like a incredible theater going experience. So, I learned my lesson last time. You don't bet against James Cameron. This guy,
pretty much,
he knows what he's doing. So I got a feeling this is going to be good.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah.
Agreed. And Mark, what about you? Your thoughts on seeing these scenes from Avatar: The Way of Water?
Same thing, like what you said, Wendy. The 3D is amazing. Like, when I saw it at CinemaCon initially, it wasn't as sharp, and I don't think they even implemented the frame rate thing in there, because I'm trying to remember, but I don't think they added the frame rate, because when I saw like the whole smooth, like 48 or 60, it's whatever. Yeah, it's one of those, and everything was like super smooth. I was talking with a bunch of our like friends, and they were like saying like they had a problem with the 60 frame, 48 frames, aspect of it, especially during the action sequences. Like, that's when everything just started to fall apart for them. But yeah, the action sequences look great. I thought the sequences with them underwater, I get why they're doing it, like having it that long, but I thought the underwater scenes was a little bit too long. But I get that they wanted to showcase like
all the hard work.
The 3D, yeah, look how great the 3D is. When fish swim by, you can actually see it like in your face. You can see like eels, like it can kiss you if you want. It's all the the ray tracing from the sunlight. It's gonna be amazing. But I mean, it's a James Cameron film, so that the action is gonna be great. there's gonna be like good message behind it. So, and someone else said this, what Jamie said, but don't bet against James Cameron. And now that I think about it, I kind of brushed aside like Titanic before, and I was wrong. I brushed aside Avatar before, I was wrong. So you know what? I am not gonna bet against him either, because the man can do whatever he wants, and if he wants to make 6 of these movies,
so be it.
Bring it on, man. I'm all for it.
There you
and
go.
remember, Disney's got an amusement park in Florida they need to sell tickets to, so they got to keep making these movies.
Oh, that's a good point.
Or no, I mean that's honestly why. That's 100% why Disney's behind this, because that park is huge for them, and 10 years from now,
and it's done really well from what I understand.
Really well, but
really
if they don't keep making Avatar movies, think about 10, 15 years from now, people aren't going to be as interested in going to a park based on a movie from 20 years ago they don't remember. But if every 4 or 5 years there's going to be another sequel, then
and they can expand the
Marvelizing of the Avatar world. Yeah.
Yes. Good point. Well, you guys, that is all the discussion we have on everything, on not everything, but a lot of the things we got to see at D23. If you enjoyed our discussion, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button so you can get more visibility right here on YouTube, and comment below your thoughts on everything that came out of D23. What you liked, what you didn't like, and what you were hoping to see and what you're looking forward to. I'm Wendy Lee Szany. You can find me here every Monday, right next to this guy, Jami Philbrick. Jami, tell them where they can find you.
Oh, you can find me on Instagram and on Twitter at Philbrick. Facebook, my name, and check out Movie Phone for all your showtimes, reviews, listings, news, interviews, and so much more. Thank you.
And thank you, Mark, for joining us live from Disneyland.
From Disneyland.
So on brand. Where can everybody find you and your work?
Next time I'm going to stream while I'm on Splash Mountain or Star Tours. Space Mountain, maybe.
Do it from Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah, I know, right? So you guys can see what it's all about. You can find me at Pacman and R7 on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find all my stuff at Nerd Reactor.
There you go. And I'm Wendy Lee Szany, and it's just all the socials right here. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week. Have a good one.